It has been so long since I have been in front of a microphone on a stage with a bunch of people, but I'm thrilled to be here. Hello, thank you, and welcome to Research Live. This is our finalist showcase. We really appreciate you all being here. I'm going to be your host for the event. My name is Mike Furman. I'm the Associate Director for Career and Professional Development at the Graduate College. This is the 7th edition of Research Live. It's a long time. We're doing something a little bit different today than we've done in the past. This is our first hybrid event. So I'm looking around, I'm talking to all you people in the room. I'm also trying to pay attention and talk to the people joining us remotely in our Zoom webinar. So thank you from wherever you are for joining us. We're really excited that you're here and excited to hear about some really remarkable research. That's really the event designed to recognize and celebrate the amazing work that our 13 finalists are doing in their research. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to tell you about the competition, but before I get too deep into it, I wanted to bring our Dean of the Graduate College, Wojtek Hodgko-Zyko, up to the stage for a few words. So welcome the Dean. You want your own mic?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to our contestants. Good afternoon to everybody online. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to follow this guy. He looks like Johnny Carson. He's so smooth, you know. I'm Wojtek Hodgko-Zyko. I'm Dean of the Graduate College. And graduate students are the engine that drive a great research university. If we didn't have graduate students, none of our faculty would come. And if they came, they wouldn't stay, because they wouldn't be able to conduct the scholarship that is the essential and defining component of a world-class research university. And this evening is about celebrating the work of our amazing graduate students as absolutely one of my favorite events, in which students not only tell us about the amazing contribution that their research is making, but they do it in 3 minutes with style and with aplomb and with communication skills that we can all be envious of. So let's give our contestants a round of applause at the very beginning for just simply getting here. Now, the other thing I think is extraordinary is having this event hybrid. It's a reflection of the resilience of everybody in this room. To be able to come up and talk about your research when you've had, what, a 24-month, 26-month hiatus of doing things the normal way is a reflection of the extraordinary flexibility of not just our finalists, but really of all of our graduate students. And on behalf of the university, I want to thank everybody in the Graduate College, and mostly all of our grad students, for persevering during these challenging times. Now, exactly how this weird lip-syncing idea is going to work, my understanding is we're actually going to watch a video while the person up here sits up here and looks embarrassed watching the video, and then answers some questions. That's how I think it's going to work, but Mike is going to tell you how it really does work in his more polished and inimitable style. But I just want to say thank you. It's amazing to see so many people here when we have a hybrid option, and I'm sure we have many, many more people online. So enjoy the show. I think it's going to be terrific.
So yeah, it's not quite a lip sync, not quite karaoke, but it is a little bit different. So let me talk through sort of how this competition works and the steps that got us to this point. The start of the semester, we put out a call for grad students to record themselves explaining their research with those constraints of doing it in 3 minutes or less with only one slide. We got in, a bunch of applications. Our preliminary round judges reviewed them and trimmed that list down to our 13 finalists here today. Those 13 finalists had some time to tweak their talks and then had to re-record themselves in front of graduate college staff for a single take live type setting. So no, we are not asking them to come up and perform their talks as we have done in the past, but maybe it's punishment enough to have them watch their own videos. After they recorded their finals videos, our panel of finals judges have already reviewed and made a decision on the top 3. That is what we're gonna do at the end of this event, is announce the winners. The criteria that they were judged on were 5 things: organization, purpose, content, delivery, and visuals. Their slide. So while the top 3 has already been decided, we still have some work to do. In this event, we're actually gonna have our People's Choice audience voting. So you all get a voice, you all get a vote. After we watch our 13 videos, we will give you access to an online form. So whether you're in the room or joining through Zoom, you will have a chance to vote on the People's Choice winner. You can use any criteria you want, okay? It doesn't have to be ours. So that is what we're gonna do today. We're gonna watch those videos, we're gonna call everybody up one at a time, then we'll do our voting, then announce the winners. All right, great. I'm eager to get started, but I have to, before we do, just give a shout out again to the staff. Andrew, our friend from CITL on technology, Emily, our Associate Director for Student Experience, manning the chat, Alexis, Charlotte, Derek, everyone at the grad college that helped put this together. They were fantastic and made it really smooth, on me anyway. All right, well, let's get started. I know we're eager to hear some research. Our first finalist is Alex, and he's going to be joining us remotely. Is Alex available?
Yeah, can you see me okay?
I can hear you. Can we see Alex? Alex, thank you for joining us. Would you please introduce yourself and your talk for us?
Great, yeah. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I can't be there in person. I'm Alex Gagliano, I'm a grad student in the astronomy department, and my talk is A New Eye on the Exploding Sky.
Great, thank you.
You might think of the night sky as a permanent and unchanging backdrop for our lives, but it's not. The sky is filled with things living out lives every bit as beautiful and messy and unique as our own, maybe even more so. Take a star, for example. When a star reaches the end of its life, if it's massive enough, a marvelous transformation occurs. In an instant, the entire star erupts in a brilliant ball of light, billions of times brighter than our own sun. This extraordinary explosion is called a supernova, and they're happening all the time in our universe, a new one every second. By studying the light from these explosions, we can reconstruct the final moments of a star that ended its life in such incredible fashion. Astronomers are getting better and better at finding these explosions, and before too long, we'll get a little too good. For the first time in history, we'll discover more of these explosions than we could ever study in detail, and we'll need to invent new ways to decide where to focus our attention. This is my research, crafting new tools to unravel the mysteries of how a star dies. This might seem like an easy thing to do, but it becomes a lot harder when you have to do it before the explosion fades away. We have a few ideas though. Each person carries the signatures of the environment where they grew up. An accent, a style of dressing, a way of seeing the world, and stars are the same way. They form from the dust and the gas around them, so their lives and their deaths bear the mark of their environment. I'm showing one simple example of this on the slide here. Big stars are found more often than small ones in the arms of spiral galaxies. And the explosions of big stars brighten and dim differently from the explosions of small stars. So if we see an explosion start in a spiral arm, then already we have a sense for what kind of star that explosion came from and how the explosion is going to look. Now, some of these connections we understand, but the vast majority we don't. And by learning the connection between a star and the place where it grew up, we can recognize these signatures at the earliest moments in a star's death to separate the completely normal from the completely unexpected. Upcoming telescopes will discover explosions that we've never seen before. We've constructed a rich tapestry for how we think the universe works, and these weird explosions lie right at the edges of this tapestry. By finding and tugging on these threads, we'll expand our understanding of the secret lives of stars and redefine what we thought was possible. Thank you.
Excellent. Alex, are you there? Did we switch back?
I'm here.
Oh, that's
Hi,
great. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, doing great. I'm so glad we were able to get this to work because you are not here. So where are you? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I am at the Center for Computational Astrophysics in New York right now for a conference. I mentioned upcoming telescopes in my talk, and there are a bunch of very smart people here, and we all got together to try and figure out how to build these tools to find new explosions.
Wow. Very impressive. Are you enjoying New York?
It's very cold this week, but the food is great. I can't complain about the food.
Any recommendations for restaurants?
Last night we went to ABC Cocina, which was Mexican. Highly recommend if you ever find yourself in the area.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Alex. We won't take you away any more time from your conference. We really appreciate you joining us virtually. So glad it worked, and excellent job. Well done on your talk.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for watching.
All right. Thanks again to Alex. We will keep it moving on. All right. With our next finalist, come on up, Alicia.
Hi, everyone.
There you go.
My name is Alicia Cabrera-Prado, and I am researching how to reshape U.S. dual language teacher training with a study abroad experience. As a student, I never saw myself reflected in the curriculum as a bilingual, bicultural Cuban American. I even had Spanish teachers that corrected words that I used because they weren't what we used in the textbook. At home, I learned carro, and in the textbook, we learned coche, which they would mark incorrect on my work. I likened my teachers to Don Quixote, visages of a time gone by, clinging to that textbook definition of a language. Fortunately, my parents were also teachers and filled in the gaps with literature, music, movies, and most importantly, travel. The gravity of these experiences became apparent when I became a teacher of Heritage Spanish. Due to my own experiences, I realized the curriculum needed to reflect the students' varied cultures and languages, while also opening a gateway to new perspectives to evoke curiosity and create lifelong learners. I sought out literature and language that reflected and honored my students. How can we reshape teacher training to prepare pre-service teachers for these linguistically and culturally diverse classrooms? Through my research, I hope to demonstrate the benefit of study abroad for pre-service dual language teachers. Dual language classrooms are where multicultural and multilinguistic students are learning two languages concurrently, kindergarten through 12th grade. In the context of my study, they're learning English and Spanish. By fostering these experiences where pre-service teachers are in a cultural and linguistic minority while abroad, they can understand their future students' experiences on a deep level. While the pandemic put study abroad on hold, it created space for robust virtual offerings, which could open the path and allow more pre-service teachers to study abroad. Culturally sustaining pedagogies is exactly what I explained before, reflecting the students' backgrounds in the classroom and honoring their home language and culture. For example, in my travels through various Spanish-speaking countries, I learned 11 different words for straw. That doesn't even account for the other native languages spoken in those countries. In a culturally sustaining classroom, we would honor and use it as an opportunity for the other students to expand their own vocabulary. Translanguaging is something that occurs naturally when we travel and speak another language. It's using all the languages in your repertoire. When you can't think of the word in the target language, you use the other one. It's something that language learners do organically, and it's specifically useful in classrooms where students are learning to navigate multiple languages. As US classrooms continue to diversify, it's imperative to reshape teacher training to include study abroad for dual language classrooms, to experience firsthand for a short respite what being in a cultural and linguistic minority feels like, to better understand the dynamics in a dual language room while also opening the doors to new ideas and perspectives. So let's imagine the teacher is Don Quixote once again, being cloistered in language and traveling on adventures. This time, they're also reminded of the complex realities and language classrooms by their trusty companion, Sancho Panza. Thank you. Gracias.
Wasn't too painful, was it?
No.
No. You actually, we talked about this earlier. You have a background in TV news,
Yes.
correct?
That is my background.
Tell us about that. How did you go from TV news to education?
Well, everyone in my almost everyone in my family's a teacher. My parents, one of my sisters, my cousins, my aunt. And growing up, I'm like, oh, I'm not going into education. I'm not doing that. So I actually went into television production, and I was working in the city, editing TV commercials, and it wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted it to be. Like the next Ritz Bits commercial wasn't impacting anyone's life on a deep level. And I realized that what I wanted to do was be in the classroom like everyone in my family and really impact lives on a different way in that way in education.
That's fantastic. You made a good choice, and we're very lucky that you did.
Thank you.
No, you got some family here. We're going to let you
Yes.
go through. Or do you want to introduce the little one?
Well, the noisy 2-year-old is mine, if you hear him. So,
Well, thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
job. And yeah, round
Thank
of
you.
applause again. All right. All right, next up we have Apurva. Please come on up.
Hi everyone, it's so nice that you all could make it to the talk. Really good to see everyone in person. I'm Apurva. I'm a third-year PhD student in chemical and biomolecular engineering, so we're right across the street from here. My talk is titled, Is it a stem cell? Developing a new tool to phenotype cells. Approximately every 3 minutes, one person in the United States is diagnosed with a blood cancer. The American Cancer Society estimates 184,000 new cases for blood cancers in 2022. Currently, transplanting healthy blood stem cells from a donor into a patient is the most effective way to treat blood cancers. But blood stem cells are very rare in our bodies. So oftentimes, the number of stem cells isolated from a donor isn't enough for a successful transplant. So blood stem cell researchers are trying to identify conditions under which stem cells isolated from donors can be multiplied in numbers so that more cells become available for transplants. Typically in these studies, blood stem cells are exposed to different conditions. At the end of the study, the researchers perform an analysis that tells them, okay, this stem cell was exposed to this particular condition. What happened to it? Is it still a blood stem cell? Or has it specialized into a different type of cell, which is no longer useful for transplants? This analysis is called as determining the phenotype of the cell. Current phenotyping methods have two main limitations. Firstly, these methods require a lot of cells for analysis. And as I pointed out earlier, blood stem cells are rare, so this is a problem. Secondly, you need to attach various molecules to the cells to analyze them or remove them from the culture or kill the cells in the process. In my research, I'm building a phenotyping tool to overcome these limitations. To address the first limitation, which is the high cell requirement, I have developed a miniature chip on which blood stem cells can be grown. My chip has a very strategic layout, which will minimize the number of cells that are needed for experiments. To tell the phenotype of the cells, you simply locate a cell on my chip, shoot it with a laser beam, and record the signal that's coming back from the cell. A computer algorithm will analyze this signal and tell you the phenotype of the cell. So this approach doesn't require any molecules that will attach onto the cells, nor do you need to take the cells out of the chip to analyze them. Moreover, the laser beam that I use does not kill the cells. So the cells are alive after the analysis, and you can continue to watch their behavior over time. So if you think of the blood stem cell researchers as artists, then I'm essentially trying to make better paint brushes so the artists can make a better painting. It is my vision that the phenotyping tool that I'm developing will aid scientists in understanding blood stem cells to improve the treatments for blood cancers. Thank you.
Excellent job, excellent job. So my question for you is, what do you enjoy most about your research? And I would say my favorite part would definitely be shooting the lasers,
Yeah.
but let's hear from you.
Yeah, that's a fun part too, but it can get a little annoying when you're sitting in the dark for hours upon hours looking for stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I personally enjoy all of my project, but my favorite part has been like the picture of the chip that was up on the slide, like figuring out the layout of the chip and going back and forth to the drawing board and making the design, trying it out, going back, making changes. So that's the part that I've enjoyed the most.
Thank you. Well, we enjoyed listening to it. You're very
you.
good, especially up here. You maybe want to take over, do the hosting? All right, now we'll let her go. Thank you, Apurva.
Thank you.
It was really great. All right. Next, we have Katlin. Caitlin. Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Caitlin Harris. I am a second-year PhD in the Musicology program, and the talk that you're going to hear today is Bands and Brands in the Wake of Union Demands. When I say the word band, an image likely comes to your mind that involves uniforms, marching, or maybe even long rehearsals. Nevertheless, a tendency exists where we associate bands with education. But bands have a multitude of associations beyond their link to academic institutions. And a highly unknown connection existed between bands and industry. I shed light on this connection through my research on the nearly forgotten phenomenon of industry-sponsored bands. Moreover, I use these bands as case studies through which I interrogate the links between music sponsorship and capitalist interests. In the United States, the years following the First World War witnessed a surge in the creation and sponsorship of these industrial bands. Not only did they spring up across nearly all states, but also among a wide variety of industrial sectors, including oil refineries and even food production. And I'm not talking about unknown companies either. Familiar brands such as Kellogg's and Ford sponsored groups that were comprised of company employees. Such bands were the preferred medium because of their potential for advertising and branding. After all, they were mobile, audible, and highly customizable. Uniforms could feature brand color schemes or even logos placed on, say, a player's hat. The large circular bass drums also had space where brand names could be seen while a band was playing, similar to where you'd find a collegiate logo on a college marching band's bass drums today. This space could even reinforce ad campaigns. In one instance, the Kellogg band seen on the slide placed the logo for a contemporary cereal campaign on their bass drum. Furthermore, thanks to their mobility, these groups could perform locally as well as travel to surrounding areas, all while cultivating associations between their playing and the company sponsoring the band. And it worked, because at the time, bands represented a major source of entertainment before mass-produced forms of media could be enjoyed at home. Although they existed as a unique and entertaining approach to advertising, the surge of industrial bands in the 1920s suggests more than marketing was at play. The early 20th century marked a period of violent struggle between burgeoning capitalist industries and a wave of labor unionism. In the wake of these unions, the formation of industrial bands created an opportunity for companies to foster a sense of community among employees, because the bands were made up of employees. Furthermore, the advertisement of band accomplishments, often published in company newsletters or even in local papers, contributed to a sense of company pride. This cultivation of goodwill towards the employers clearly functioned as a method by which to maintain a content workforce, one that would be less likely to endorse unionism or even strike. By drawing attention to these industrial bands, my research sheds light on a nearly forgotten facet of band history in the US and points to the ways in which industries wielded music to serve their own interests. Thank you.
That's really interesting stuff. Like, that is really cool. And I doubt anyone else in this room knew anything about it. I also understand you told me that it's a very rare, like, form study of research. How did you end up getting to this topic? What led you here?
So in my field, specifically musicology, band research is a bit more rare. So you'd be more likely to find it in, say, music education or in wind band conducting, people that actually work primarily with bands. And how I found this particular topic actually is a bit of serendipity. I was literally walking through a hallway one time, and there was this picture of an oil band, and I went, well, that's fascinating. And then I went to the local archive, and we had a company newsletter on file, and I was able to start looking more in these bands, and I found a book that actually was published in 1929 that actually listed several of these bands. So I've hitched myself to the bandwagon ever since.
That was a really good pun. You also have a phenomenal title. I love that you had to get the rhyming. There was like a whole music aspect to it. Great job. Thank you. We'll let you go. Thanks, Caitlin. You did great. Okay, our next finalist is Tawni.
Hello, my name is Tawni Williams, and my talk is entitled Piglet Behavior Analysis.
Have you ever wondered what your pet does while you are away from home? This curiosity has sparked many pet owners to install video monitoring cameras in their homes to keep an eye on their four-legged family member during the day. In a research setting, humans are not able to be present continuously throughout the day, and often many animals will perform certain behaviors only in the absence of humans, as the human presence can have a great impact on animal activity. Using video monitoring to track the behavior of a research animal can give great insight into treatment impact, suitability of their environment, social dynamics, and overall well-being. This can allow us to draw inferences because while animals can't tell us their individual welfare status, they can show us. By creating a behavior ethogram, which is a complete list of all activities that may be performed by an animal, it is possible to accurately track behavior and use the insight gained to further academic research and improve animal welfare for research animals. An ethogram contains definitions that correspond with each behavior label so that multiple observers can refer to descriptive definitions and limit subjectivity. While behavior data is important to collect during research, it is often not feasible to have a human observer record behaviors continuously. Even with the placement of video cameras for automated monitoring, the time spent analyzing continuous behavior data is great. These limitations have led to researchers using behavior sampling strategies, viewing and analyzing portions of the day as a representation of the whole day to draw conclusions about their animals, but often important aspects of behavior are missed with this strategy. My project is focused on developing a behavior ethogram for piglets that are individually housed in a research setting in order to develop a best case scenario sampling strategy and work towards an automated analysis of behavioral data. Using Python, an automated data analysis tool, each sample of video data was compared to a full day of video data. For example, if a piglet spends 5 minutes out of 20 minutes resting compared to 12 minutes out of an hour resting, are those values statistically equal? By developing a sampling strategy that best represents the continuous behavior data, the time needed to view and analyze behavior is drastically reduced. Looking forward, it is possible to use a validated ethogram and sampling strategy to automate behavior analysis using computer vision strategies, overcoming many of the obstacles involved with using behavior in a research setting. This behavior analysis strategy can then be applied to improve animal welfare in commercial food production settings by allowing farmers to gain insight into their animals' behavior. This is the same method that we use to monitor our pets' behavior in our homes while we're away to ensure that they are calm and comfortable.
Great job, great job. I gotta go off script a little. What do pigs do all day?
A lot of sleeping and eating, and some play every once in a while.
What is the play like?
So these piglets are actually housed individually, but they can see their neighbor next to them. So they'll go up to the glass and sniff each other jump on the glass, they'll run back and forth with each other, so they interact quite a bit.
That's great. That's great. My official question, though, was going to be, what's next? Like, what is the future for this line of research?
Sure. So this ethogram that we developed is going to be used for future studies in this specific research facility. So we can add a behavior component to studies that traditionally wouldn't have a behavior component, and it allows us as researchers to keep an eye on our animals and make sure that they're healthy and doing well in their environment. And then also our methods for developing that sampling strategy can be used to develop further ethograms and continue with further behavior studies.
Excellent. Thank you, Tawni.
Thank you.
Great job. All right, and our next finalist, Giavanna.
Hello, everyone,
Go.
and to my family tuning in. My name is Giavanna McCall, and I'm a fourth-year doctoral student in educational psychology, and the title of my talk is Examining the Effects of Reading Engagement on Cognition. Would you believe me if I told you that reading could improve your memory? Well, stick around, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. In my research lab, we developed a literacy-based intervention to test the causal effects of reading engagement on older adults' cognition. We thought it would be effective to examine reading because it's an activity that actually requires you to hold things in mind and to remember them, while also integrating that information into a coherent representation of the story. And so 76 community-dwelling older adults were recruited between the ages of 60 to 79 years of age. The participants were randomly assigned to either a reading group or an active puzzle control, as you can see referenced in my slide. The participants who were assigned to the reading group could choose from a list of any novels of their choice from the iPads, while the participants who were assigned to the puzzle group could choose from any crossword puzzles or word searches of their choice. Before actually engaging in the literacy intervention, the older adults took a set of cognitive measures to get a baseline of their cognition at pretest. They then engaged in the literacy intervention, where they engaged for 5 days out of the week, 90 minutes per day, for a total of 8 weeks. Once the 8 weeks had completed, the participants came back and they took another set of cognitive measures at post-test to get a gauge of their cognition. Relative to the findings that you see, referenced in my slide in figure 1, from pre-test to post-test, we actually observe that older adults who were assigned to the reading group actually experienced improvement in their working memory and their episodic memory. So what does this even mean, and why is it even important? Well, if you take a look at my slide, you'll see that working memory is responsible for controlling attention in order to get information into long-term memory. The issue here is that older adults experience deficits in their working memory as they get older. And this directly affects their ability to remember things or events that may have occurred, which is episodic memory. And so relative to the findings, what we suggest is that reading may be beneficial for older adults specific to reading-related processes in working memory and episodic memory. It also, in essence, suggests that reading may be more important or beneficial of an activity than we actually give it credit for. So going back to the beginning and referencing my question, do you believe me now? Thank you.
Great job. Great job. That wasn't too painful, was it? No.
It was okay.
All right, I got to ask, because you gave a shout out to your family. Who's watching?
My mom, my dad, the whole side of my mom's, basically, and a few of my dad's relatives.
Great, great. Happy that they're here. So we've seen talks on people looking at stars and pigs and using lasers. You've got to actually recruit humans to come and do these studies.
Yeah, I work with people. I love older adults.
Yeah. Tell us about that. What is like the process like? How do you get people? How do you decide what target population?
Right, so for our study specifically, we recruited older adults who were native speakers of English or they had to had acquired the English before the age of 6. And then also, they couldn't have any type of like health ailments within the past 3 years, so no like sensory, mental, or like physical ailments. And then they also couldn't have engaged in like 10 hours or more of like reading novels or engagement in puzzles, so they must have been like relatively inactive or retired within the past 6 months.
How do you check that? Like, is that just like self-reporting?
Yeah, it was just self-report.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we also gave them like an art recognition test just to make sure that their exposure to print wasn't really high. So that one is more of an objective measure because they're just going through and you have to like select the authors who are actually truly authors. So there's foils in there. So there's people who are not actually authors, so that we could double check that behind the self-report. So, yeah.
That's great. That is like way over my head. That's fantastic. Great talk. Thank you, Giavanna. Great job. All right. Next up, we have Kerry.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kerry. I am a first-year PhD student from the Department of Chemistry. My concentration is analytical chemistry. Come on, don't drop your heads down when I say chemistry. Today, you get to learn the most embarrassing moment of my life, excluding this one. And you get to play a telephone game with me. So I hope you all will enjoy this video. The most embarrassing moment that happened in my life was when I was in preschool. I was dancing with a group of friends and I forgot my dance move totally. And I was spacing out looking at my dad, who was actively recording me. When I ask you about your favorite childhood memory, you could tell me exactly when and what happened. But what if I ask you, what did you have for lunch last Tuesday? You might take a second and tell me, wait, I forgot about that. So that process of forming a memory in your brain is actually due to this process called neurotransmission. And there are millions of neurons in your brain, and they're playing this telephone game, passing down the same message. So as I illustrated here, the first neuron said, study for the exam, and passed down to the next neuron. Next neuron received it, passed down to the next neuron, so on and so forth. So the message here, the text within that, are representing something called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the messengers necessary for the communication going on between two neurons. If you do have enough neurotransmitters, this process will go smoothly and perfectly for you. And if this process goes on for several trials within the same group of neurons, that will be stored as a long-term memory. And if that only goes on for once or twice, it will be stored as a short-term memory. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. There might be a problem happening. So in the bottom here, we have this one neuron saying, study for, which is only half of sentences. And that means we are missing some text. We are missing some neurotransmitters. So that will confuse the second neuron. So it will refuse to keep passing down this message to the next neuron. So then this telephone game will stop. That's when neurodegenerative diseases will happen, like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease. As an analytical chemistry group, we are looking for why this change in neurotransmitters happen by placing this eavesdropper that we invented and put them in between two neurons. So when the communication is going on, we could listen to what actually is going wrong in their communication. So it is consisted of an electrode with a fiber sticking out. The fiber itself is 10 times thinner than a human hair. So it is very teeny tiny. So we can place them into a rat's brain. So we can monitor them, all the conversations going on in their brain. And besides all the fun part about detection, I also find it fascinating that I get to handle all the lab rats before the testing, because it is also necessary for me to keep them into a calm mood so they're comfortable to do all the testing that we're going to do with them. And lastly, as you are watching this video, you're actively learning from me. So your neurons are actually doing this telephone games with me. So good job, neurons, and thanks for your attention.
Stole my thunder a little because I was going to say, it is like the bravest choice to start a video like this with my most embarrassing moment is.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, but somehow overshadowed by the fact that you talked about petting the rats.
Yeah.
You have to calm the rats down. Tell us why you need to do that.
So, firstly, I know most of you are probably wondering why that happened and how that happened. And first, let me ask a question to the audience. How big do you think the lab rats are? Use your hand.
Seeing like this. Someone's doing this. Someone in the back is like, oh, here. It's like
I see some of you telling me it's like about the size of the palm of your hand. That's what I thought before I actually met them, right? When I first picked them up, I was like, oh, they're huge. If they're fully grown, they're about the same size as my forearm. They're like a little bunny, right? Oh, I see some of you be like, I'm not scared of them, luckily. So that is necessary for us to calm them down by petting them. So we would usually place their tail in between our fingers so we can fix them in place and they will lay on our forearm. And actually they love dark space. So they're like, I'm gonna find some corner that's darker. So we're gonna use that when we do injections because we are gonna make a pocket out of a towel. Because we're not gonna strain them up, like that's torturing people. And they're going to spontaneously want to poke their head in to that pocket and just stay there, laying there, chilling out, and we can do the injections. And for our neurotransmitter detections, because when they have a mood fluctuation, like when they get into a new environment, I'm pretty sure everybody will get nervous, so they will get nervous too. So when there is a fluctuation in moods, their neurotransmitter is going to be abnormal. So we don't want that interference with our experiments. That's why we want to pet them.
So there's one thing you remember from this entire event. You now know how to pet and calm down rats.
Yeah. Yes. That's the only message you should remember. Right?
Thank you, Kerry. That's awesome. Great job. All right, Azlan. How are you going to follow that? Petting rats.
You just asked how I was going to follow that, and I decided to leave. I'm Azlan Smith. I'm a third-year MFA working on a novel, but today I'm here to talk to you about some of my other research, which I'm going into a PhD to keep doing. And my talk is called Voices, Crowdsourced Storytelling.
How often do you share? Not just what you do, but the stories behind what you do. I'm Azlan Smith, and my research focuses on what becomes possible when we share stories from inside specific communities or research initiatives. One recent project, Voices of Memory, is in collaboration with director Brett Katlin and culminated last week in a keynote performance at the Memory Studies Conference on campus. That project started by asking people in Urbana-Champaign to share stories about how memory works in their lives. Some people shared stories through interviews and some through a website. I wove their stories together into a performance, and the performance explores how memory became a place where we could connect with ourselves and each other during COVID quarantines when traveling was harder. Like all of my projects, Voices of Memory aims to support a community in seeing, strengthening, and sharing itself. After another project, a collaborator told me, I didn't think I'd ever get to share my story. And if I did, I didn't think anyone would listen. But tonight I heard a whole theater full of people listening. An audience member told me, I almost never get the chance to see that deeply or that openly into people's lives. Voices gives us a chance to experience our common ground while also exploring the real tensions and differences between us. While drawing on traditions like verbatim theater, art research, and art activism, my research works to actively bring different groups together. Another current project, Voices of the Land, is in collaboration with director Emily Heaton and the Illinois Regenerative Agricultural Initiative. That project brings together researchers, farmers, political activists, grocery store workers, and other people connected with food systems. By bringing these different groups together, we can create a multi-voiced exploration of how food systems work, the cracks where our food systems don't work, and the possibilities for growing the food we need while also helping our soil regenerate. Looking forward, I'd love to do a project with COVID nurses. I'd love to do a Voices project with first-generation students at the university. I'd love to do more projects with science departments. I think the sciences and the humanities can work together to make what we're learning impactful in our communities and in the world beyond. I think stories can help. After all, stories help direct the way we look at the world. Stories encourage us to position ourselves in certain ways and to work towards certain ends. These days, lots of stories come from a few gigantic sources. If everyone watches Netflix, Netflix gets to tell its stories everywhere. In my research, I'd rather hear from you. What's important to you? What do you worry about? What do you choose to work for, and why? And how does that work happen? And what do you do when the work's done? My work keeps asking, what becomes possible when we share the stories from inside our community? Thank you.
Great job, great job. All right, so we talked earlier, I was making you record this video. You said that video and recording is something you're not really used to because you usually do your research a little bit differently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I'm looking out and there's this cool crowd here. There's however many people on Zoom, I don't know how many. And it's like, it's true, I'd rather be hearing from you than listening to me talk. Usually when I introduce my research, we'll do things like I'll get up here and I might say something fast, but then I'll be like, hey, turn to your neighbor and like, tell them a story. Like that thing that happened to your grandpa or like the thing that your mom always says that happened to you or whatever it is. Like let's all share our most embarrassing moments or other moments. And then we can share a story and then we'll chat about that for a little bit. And then I'm like, hey, share another story. A story maybe that's not the one you usually share, but that's important to you. Like share one of those stories. And kind of as we talk to each other and as you hopefully get to know someone new you're sitting next to, there's kind of this opportunity for us to feel the connection starting, to feel what happens when we start sharing stories, to feel how the first one and the second one's different, because as you share your first story, it feels there's a little bit more space and safety to share your second. Start wondering why your second story might be something you don't share very much. How come you always share this story and not that one? Which makes me think a lot about like always having to sell what I'm doing, right? Sell my research, which I guess that's relevant right here. So anyway, I would talk about it a lot less and I'd ask you all to talk a lot more and just feel what it was like to share stories.
That's great. You don't have to sell anything. It's fantastic on its own.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. All right, Jiadi. Yay. Come on up.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mike. It's nice to meet you in person, finally. Yeah. So my name is Jiadi. I'm a first-year PhD student in College of Education, Department of Curriculum and Instruction. So my research topic is about heritage language maintenance and bilingual education.
Can you imagine not being able to communicate with your grandparents? The people who live in the same house, drive you to school, teach you how to ride a bike, take you to meals. But you have never had a real conversation with them because you don't know the language they speak, your family language. That is the true story that is happening every day on this land. Throughout the country, there are some outspoken American language nativists who believe that English should be given greater status. It should be the only language spoken in the US, or at least the official language. But the fact is, we are living in a country where more than 17% of people are immigrants, and this number will continue to grow. And that's why monolingual education is not enough for our immigrant children. If they cannot talk to their family, cannot go back to the place where their family come from and understand what people there are saying, they cannot read their history and culture, they lose something great. They lose part of them. As a multilingual researcher, I am interested in understanding how immigrant children in the US maintain their heritage language, which is any language other than English that is spoken by an individual, a family, or a community. Specifically, I was trying to observe how Chinese American children learn Mandarin Chinese, but it was so hard for me to find such a bilingual classroom because in Champaign-Urbana, where more than 130,000 Chinese and Chinese Americans live, there is only one Chinese English bilingual program. And the only one Chinese heritage school was closed during the COVID period due to financial difficulty and the lack of support. Instead of witnessing the school despairing, I took on the responsibility of rebuilding the Chinese heritage school, which in turn has been the set of my ethnographic research project. My research project contributes to the understanding of what makes heritage language so difficult to maintain, what kind of challenges our students, teachers, and parents are facing, and how could we better support heritage language maintenance and bilingual education in the US. Immigrant children should always have the choice to choose the language or languages they want to speak. And there should always be a place for them to protect and honor their heritage language and culture. Thank you.
Great job, great job. All right, tell us more about rebuilding that Chinese heritage school. That's really important, fascinating stuff.
Yeah, so just like I mentioned, I was planning to get into the classroom, collect my data, but I was told that the Chinese language school has been closed for almost 3 years. You know, honestly, I feel it was easier for me to just change my research topic and question, you know, instead of rebuilding a school. But think of that, those children, they might lose the place to learn their family language forever, right? So I couldn't just walk away. And I made that decision because for me, the reason I choose to be a researcher, to be an educator is that I want to change some things. I want to protect something and I want to help some group of people. So that's why last semester, me and other several graduate students, we started working on rebuilding this school. It was super challenging, I would say. Yeah, we don't have funding, we don't have enough teachers to teach, but we still made it. Yeah, we still made it. And the school finally reopened this semester. Yay!
Clap for that, that's fantastic. That's great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job. All right, next we have Ian.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ian Ludden. I'm a fifth-year PhD student in computer science, and you'll hear my talk about from sharing cake to fair voting districts. What can a fair process for cutting cake teach us about improving fairness in political redistricting? To start answering this question, we have to go back to the book of Genesis, when Abram splits land with Lot by separating the region into left and right pieces, then letting Lot pick first. You could use the same process to share a piece of cake with a sibling, as shown in this diagram on the left. This simple process, known as I cut, you choose, is fair in the sense that each person gets at least what they consider to be half of the total value. In other words, it gives a proportional division. This ancient idea became the formal academic study of fair division in the 1940s, when a group of Polish mathematicians led by Hugo Steinhaus created a proportional cake cutting procedure for any number of players, not just two. This inspired a ton of research in math, computer science, and economics, including our work. The last bit of background comes from the early 1800s, when the governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry, approved a voting district that was carefully drawn to benefit his party. The district was so bizarrely shaped that one political cartoonist compared it to a salamander, giving it the name gerrymander, and to this day, political manipulation of districts is called gerrymandering. Unfortunately, gerrymandering is still a problem in many states because the state House majority party often controls the redistricting process. But what if you let both major parties control part of the process in a way that guarantees reasonably fair outcomes, even though both parties make selfish decisions. Motivated by this question and inspired by I Cut, You Choose cake cutting, my collaborators and I came up with the bisection protocol for redistricting. One party cuts the state in half, then the other party cuts each of those halves in half, and so on, until each piece has the right population to be one district. In the example shown in the middle, imagine we have a 14-district state with equal population counties in a grid. Each county is shaded on a scale from red to blue to indicate how its voters lean. And suppose I go first, drawing this zigzagging boundary down the middle and then curling to the left. Then you get to cut each of those halves into two pieces, rounding to whole numbers of districts. Then I cut again, and you cut again. In the final map in the bottom right, district colors show overall partisan leanings. Our team proved that with some simplifying assumptions, the fraction of districts won by each party from playing this bisection protocol is approximately the fraction of votes across the whole state for each party. In other words, bisection yields a proportional district plan, much like I Cut, You Choose gives a proportional split of a cake. This is fairer than if one party draws the district plan, as you can see from the plot on the right, because they would generally be able to gerrymander to win about twice as many districts as their vote share would predict. Our research is a step towards improving transparency and fairness in the redistricting process.
I just want to thank Ian. I can't believe how many times I heard the word gerrymander without knowing what it meant, and hearing that story was really like informative. I was like, wow. It's a big topic right now, gerrymandering, and so you talk a lot about, you know, proportional districts and making it fair. What is fair? Do we even, like, how do we determine what is fair? Is there a definition for fair when it comes to this stuff?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Mike. There's actually a lot of research in the political science community to try to define different notions of fairness. And there's a lot of different ones out there, like the efficiency gap that compares the amount of wasted votes for two different parties, or having fair meaning competitive districts. And all of these different measurements can go into like a scorecard for a district plan. And so you can kind of use those to understand some of the trade-offs that different district plans give. And for anyone interested in learning more about this work, our team has put together several reports on our website, redistricting.cs.illinois.edu. And we have reports for Illinois, Missouri, and Arizona for the latest redistricting cycle. And you can learn more about these different fairness definitions and see some sample maps we made there.
Tell us the website one more time.
Yeah, redistricting.cs.illinois.edu.
Great job.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ipshita.
Hi everybody, my name is Ipshita and I'm a graduate student in the Department of Pathobiology, College of Veterinary Medicine. And today I'll be presenting this research, which is Shots Against Cholera, Journey of a Vaccine.
The number that you see on your screen, 4 to 5 million people annually get affected by a disease called cholera. It also leads to death of about 121,000 children annually, mostly under the age of 5. Cholera, a disease caused by a bacterium known as Vibrio cholerae, affects our digestive system, leading to acute diarrhea, vomition, and in turn dehydration, which can even lead to death. My name is Ipshita Upadhyay and I'm a graduate student in Dr. Weeping Zhang's lab. We work on making vaccines against this pathogen. When I came to this lab, I designed cholera vaccine and termed it cholera MIFA from scratch. Through literature review, we found out that there are 3 main genetic factors in Vibrio cholera that affect humans that can actually lead to the disease. The first is motility. The cholera as a bacteria can travel through intestine. Second is colonization, which is that it can hook to the intestine and grow there. And finally, toxin production. These toxins can cause electrolyte balance, which cause the basic symptom of cholera, which is diarrhea. Once we figured out the genetic factors that cause this disease, we were able to combine it into a single molecule, a 3D
molecular presentation is given on the presentation, talks and about these colored regions that mainly lead to the disease. We incorporated these factors into our vaccine to combat the disease. Once we had the designing of the vaccine done, we went for the animal testing, for which we chose infant rabbit model. Infant rabbits project the same symptoms of cholera as humans do. So we brought in pregnant rabbits and divided into two groups. One group was vaccinated, while the other group wasn't. Infants born to the vaccinated group of pregnant mothers showed that they stayed healthy even on challenge with Vibrio cholerae, while infants brought in and because of the mothers that were unvaccinated had the disease, which basically showed on their skin as wrinkling and housing of the hair stuck to their skin and severe diarrhea. Thus, we could come to the conclusion that our vaccine is a good potential candidate and can go to the human trials in future. Thank you so much.
Great job. So you're designing a vaccine for cholera, and apparently that's not it. Your lab is doing other things.
Yeah, so basically, it was very surprising to me when I found out that each year 500,000 young children die of diseases that cause diarrhea. The only disease that causes more deaths in children is pneumonia. So it's the second cause of death in young children. So it's our lab's mission to fight against all of these diseases that cause diarrhea. Vibrio cholerae is one of them, but we also work on E. coli and Shigella, and we have plans of expanding our research in future.
That's amazing. That's a round of applause right there. It's life-changing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. I'm behind schedule, so that's why. Let's get Meghan up here next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Meghan, and I'm a first-year PhD student, and the title of my talk is, Does the Immune System Play a Role in Neurodevelopmental Disorders?
Imagine this. You're at home, sick with the flu, and you feel tired, slow, maybe your appetite changes, and you spend a lot of time napping and watching TV. These are called sickness behaviors. But why does this happen? When your immune system encounters a pathogen, that is a virus or bacteria, for example, it secretes a variety of signals that communicate with your brain to rest and recover by taking it easy. These sickness behaviors have evolved in all mammals as a protective mechanism to allow the body to focus entirely on fighting off the infection and not wasting energy on unnecessary tasks. While you're resting, your immune system is working overtime to clear the pathogen and get you healthy again. But consider this. What about if you're pregnant and you get sick? What happens then? Well, the same signals will be secreted and will urge you to rest while your immune system gets to work. We call this maternal immune activation. However, some of the communication signals secreted by your immune system are thought to be able to change the baby's brain. In fact, researchers have shown that there is a correlation between maternal immune activation and risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in the baby, such as autism and schizophrenia. This is not to say that if you get sick while you're pregnant, your baby will definitely have a neurodevelopmental disorder. We also have to think about genetic and environmental factors. Let's put it this way. Imagine, for example, the risk associated with driving in a car. The likelihood of that car crashing is low, about 1 in 100. The likelihood of a baby developing a neurodevelopmental disorder when mom is sick during pregnancy is similarly low in risk. However, it does happen, and if we can find out why, we may be able to offer treatments to lower that risk. The primary focus of our research is figuring out how and which immune signals from mom cross over to the baby and how these signals cause issues in the baby's brain. Ultimately, we want to find out what we can do to stop it. The brain is in constant communication with the body's immune system, and the brain has its own unique set of immune cells known as microglia. Microglia protect the brain through communication with other cells of the brain and communication with cells and signals from the body's immune system. Microglia are also very important during the baby's early brain development as they help form circuits within the brain. So if microglia in the developing brain are receiving signals from mom's immune system, this could distract them from their normal functions and lead to a disruption of critical brain development processes occurring while the baby is still in the womb. This can result in behavioral changes associated with the neurodevelopmental disorders after birth. Overall, this research will contribute to our understanding of how neurodevelopmental disorders like autism and schizophrenia occur. Further, this research will help us develop treatments for these disorders so that we may see fewer cases in the future. So the next time it's flu season, don't forget to get your flu vaccine, especially if you're pregnant.
Wasn't too painful, right?
I don't.
You gave me a look like, oh gosh, it's got to be over soon.
I just would like to say to the audience that if you've ever recorded a video and had to listen to yourself doing it over and over again, you feel my pain.
I just gotta, for you and for everyone, the fact that you all had to record these videos in Zoom and still bring the sort of level of detail and engagement as if you were talking to an audience was really fantastic. So that's for everybody, a big round of applause. But for Meghan, what's next for you in your research?
So right now we're working on the prenatal aspect of this research. So my lovely co-grad students who are in the audience, we're all currently working on the prenatal aspect of how and why maternal immune activation may lead to neurodevelopmental disorders. But ultimately, the goal of our research is to pull this out and look postnatally and see how our model compares, especially to models that use non-live pathogens while we use a live pathogen.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Meghan. All right, our final finalist, Adam, come on up.
Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with us to the very end here. Anyways, my name is Adam. I'm a fourth year PhD student in the Department of Molecular and Integrative Physiology, and I hope you all enjoy my talk about how frying cured meat can awaken dormant breast cancer cells.
When I think of a classic Sunday morning breakfast, the first thing that comes to mind is frying up some bacon and eggs, a nice hearty and, let's face it, greasy way to start the day. And it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that many Americans make this their go-to breakfast, with over $4 billion worth of bacon purchased in the US annually. However, the story that I'm about to tell you provides evidence that eating this very delicious, but unfortunately high cholesterol foodstuff, especially after pan frying, may negatively impact the recovery of breast cancer patients. Currently, breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed and second leading cause of cancer-related mortality among women in the US. As the vast majority of these deaths are due to recurrent metastatic disease, which is when the cancer reemerges at a different site, it is imperative that we find innovative ways to prevent recurrence. We now know that these cancer cells can be lying in a state of dormancy at these distant sites for many years, but the factors that lead to their awakening are poorly understood. However, we believe that dietary habits may be playing a critical role in this awakening process. This concept is both supported by clinical data showing that breast cancer patients on cholesterol-lowering drugs have lower rates of recurrence, as well as work done by us and others showing that derivatives of cholesterol can promote breast cancer metastasis. Therefore, we designed a study where I fed mice diets containing oil derived from the cured and uncured bacon that had been pan-fried, which would be expected to produce these cholesterol derivatives, to investigate how frying a high cholesterol foodstuff affects awakening of dormant breast cancer cells. Using a special model of breast cancer dormancy in combination with a bioluminescent imaging technique, which can be seen in the pictures on the slide, I was able to track the degree of metastatic outgrowth experienced by our mice on these different diets. Now, while our mice on the uncured bacon oil diet did reach our technical standard of awakening from dormancy, it is easy to see from these images that our mice on the cured bacon oil diet experienced a far more robust effect. Now, the primary difference between uncured and cured bacon is that cured bacon is treated with preservatives to extend its shelf life. However, when these preservatives are exposed to high heat, such as through pan frying, they can be converted into cancer-causing compounds. Therefore, I am now investigating how the combination of cholesterol derivatives and cancer-causing compounds may work synergistically to provide a more powerful stimulus to awaken these dormant cancer cells. So it would seem that both the cholesterol and preservative content of our greasy Sunday morning breakfast, as well as the method we choose to prepare it by, are important factors in the progression of breast cancer. Ultimately, we hope that this data can be used to empower breast cancer survivors to play a proactive role in preventing recurrence and reduce mortality from breast cancer. Thank you.
Great job, great job. So how did you, I'm curious, I'm going a little off script on here. How did you get to bacon? Like, how does that process come? Like, you're solving these complex scientific problems and you're like, yep, it's bacon. That's what we got.
I mean, who doesn't want to work with bacon? Yeah, really, this work is mostly based off of the fact, we talk about, a lot of times in our field, we refer to like the Western diet, which is just like a broad categorization of diets that are high in fat, sugar, cholesterol. And so we try to think of something that is really common. And as I said in my video, we're buying over $4 billion worth of bacon every year in this country. So we thought that that would be a really good model system to use for this. And so we teamed up with some food scientists and very scientifically cooked bacon. I would stand there with like a laser food thermometer while they're cooking it, and the whole time thinking about how hungry I was because I hadn't eaten that day. And I was hoping I could maybe keep some leftover bacon, but I couldn't, so.
So what do you eat for breakfast then?
I'm not gonna lie, I do like bacon and eggs, but I do try to limit that. My normal breakfast is a lot more boring. It tends to be Greek yogurt and granola, so.
Healthy though.
Not nearly as fun.
Much healthier, yeah. Great job, Adam, thank you. All right, thank you again to all the finalists. I need to stand up. I think everyone else needs to stand up too, which is a good segue that now we are going to open the fan voting. You can see the URL on the screen that we're going to share. We're also going to have some stands with a QR code that we're going to put around the room. You can scan that with your phone. It will take you right to the form. We're going to give everyone at least a good 5 minutes so that you have time to vote for your favorite, get up, stretch, rest your brain a little bit, and then we'll come back with our announcement for the winners. Thank you.
Wasn't that extraordinary? It really was. And, when I think that we have 20,000 graduate students at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and all we got was a sampling of 13 of them. What an amazing multiplier it is when you think about all of these brilliant young people coming here to help us and to advance their research and their education. So I'd like to say thank you to our 13 finalists. You guys were amazing. You were terrific. But what an extraordinary diversity of topics. And to me, that underscores the breadth and depth of scholarship and knowledge that occurs at a great university. And I learned so much, and I was especially touched by the graduate student who brought her 3-year-old son with her to listen to her. It reminds me that really graduate education is now not only for the individuals who kind of come through K through 12 to undergraduate to graduate, but with many different flavors and different types of graduate students in the world today. And I'm so glad that we're able to welcome not only graduate students of all ages, but from all countries and all cultures. So tonight was a real special event. I must admit, I've got 4 of my kids running around here, and so I'm going to have to take them to Monical's for pizza. because my wife is chairing a search committee for another department. So I'm going to leave you now in the capable hands of our extraordinary MC, who I'd like you all to give him a huge round of applause, Mike. And I'd like to add my thanks to everybody on the graduate college team and everybody who from CITL and Tech Services who helped make this evening possible. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Mike.
All right. Thanks, Wojtek. Okay. We're getting to the moment. We have some more thanks to hand out. I did want to acknowledge our judges. They were so nice to share their time and expertise in evaluating our finalists and make a really difficult decision. We have them on the side. A couple of them are here. I was going to make them come up, but now I'm not going to. So just wanted to thank them and thank our preliminary round judges for everything that they shared. I will tell you, the deliberation meeting yesterday to decide on the winners was 90 minutes. Like, it was a well-reasoned, like, thought-out, long deliberation, and everyone was in consideration. So thank you to the judges. I also just want to say real quick, because I forgot to say it earlier, thank you to Cranert. It's so great to be back here. I love this space. It's my favorite place on campus. And so thank you to their staff and everyone for having us. Okay, that's enough of that. We will get to the winners. Our People's Choice, which was just tabulated by Emily, or that winner is Adam Nelczyk. Adam, you won the People's Choice. Come on. Congratulations. Great job. Thank you. Just hang out. We just want winner. Well, stay here. Okay. All right. Third place, we have Ipshita. Come on. Great job. Okay. Second place, we have Tawni. Great job. Come on. All right. And then finally, our first place winner was Alex, who is not here. If he's still on the room, is he still in the room? He is? Hi. Yes, bring him on. Great job, Alex. Congratulations. Was it just like a little floating head?
Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, thank you. Great job, Alex. Congratulations. Congratulations to the rest of our winners. Congratulations to all the finalists. Great job, everyone. That's it, unless you all want to say something? No, you're done? You had enough? Sure? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate it. Have a great night.